Before I get started in this video today, I just want to say thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. For a small YouTuber like me, that's a huge landmark. Also, a lot of you have been asking me to make tutorials on some of my Minecraft roller coaster recreations. However, it would take me forever to make tutorials on all those recreations. So instead, I present to you this guide that will hopefully help you make any roller coaster recreation that you want. Let's get started. Step 1. Define the scale. Before you even place down a single block, one of the most important things to do when recreating a coaster in Minecraft is to define the scale. I have created the concept of coaster recreation scale, and I have made all of its terms to help you understand it. It is important to know which one to use. The most common scale that is used is 1-1. The 1-1 scale is also the most basic. It simply consists of one block representing the entire size of the track. This means that the rails you place will represent the entire coaster track width and height. The 1-1 scale is mostly used on simple or basic roller coaster recreations that do not contain very many complex elements. The next scale is the 1-3 scale. I've only used the 1-3 scale once before, and that was on my X2 recreation. I created the 1-3 scale to accommodate Aerodynamics 4D coasters. The scale consists of the track being 1 block in height and 3 blocks in width. The rails are placed on both ends of the track, leaving an empty block in the middle, representing the two sides on a 4D coaster. My original design featured an extra block in the center of the track, but this caused the cart to slow down on a lot of turns. However, this design can be used on Intamin Zack spins or an SNS free spin because there are no turns left or right. The next scale is the 1-6 scale. This scale is generally used for dueling coasters such as the original Colossus at Magic Mountain or Gemini at Cedar Point. The scale consists of the track being 1 block in height and 6 blocks wide. Railing or fences are placed on both ends of the track, and the rails are placed directly next to the fences, leaving 2 blocks of space between the two tracks. This scale can be modified by your preference if you want to increase or decrease the amount of space between the two tracks. My innovating scale that is becoming more common with me is the 5-5 scale. This is my favorite scale. The 5-5 scale consists of the track being 5 blocks in height and 5 blocks wide. The track is made by an outline of a 5x5 hollow box, and adding cross ties within the track. The scale is very useful when making complex recreations that may not seem to be rideable in Minecraft. This scale can easily make any coaster rideable while maintaining a realistic look. However, this scale does take the longest time to build, and is also the hardest to build, especially when changing the direction of the track. Also, this scale only really works to make coasters that consist of a 4-rail track design, such as the track seen on most Intamin coasters. Now that you have defined the scale that you will use, it is time to move on to the next step. Step 2. Use real reference pictures. When recreating a roller coaster, it is recommended to use reference pictures of the ride that you are making. Try not to use animated pictures, and try not to use other people's recreations as a guide to making your own. This way, your recreation is based off the ride itself, and not a modification of someone else's version of that, because it is hard to include every detail in a recreation. Step 3. Build the station first. When building a recreation, it is important to make sure that your coaster is dependent on essential features such as the station. For rides that interact with the queue, such as Apocalypse at Magic Mountain, it is important to make the ride first before you make the queue to make sure that the ride is just the way you want it, and that the queue is dependent on the coaster. But before you make the coaster itself, you have to make sure where its starting point is in relation to other obstacles, such as a queue interaction. After you build the station, you should then start building the ride, keeping queue interactions in mind, but making sure your coaster still looks realistic. Step 4. Make change of track direction as curved as possible. When making turns, drops, airtime hills, etc., try to make the track as curved as possible. One of the most annoying things is Minecraft roller coasters that have simple linear ascensions, drops, and turns with pointy summits. Do not get lazy and make linear drops, hills, and turns for the sake of finishing it quickly. It's okay to take your time, even if it takes several months to finish the recreation. Step 5. Build the entire track first and then add scenery and props. When making a recreation, you definitely want the props, scenery, queue, etc. to be dependent on the coaster itself. It is important to make sure that the coaster is completely independent and does not rely on its surroundings for accuracy. Instead, you want its surroundings to rely on the coaster for accuracy. Step 6. Build the supports as they appear on the actual coaster. Okay, another really annoying thing when seeing roller coaster recreations is the randomly placed supports that do not represent the actual coaster very well. Keep step 2 in mind, and always use real reference pictures to build your supports the way they actually are on the roller coaster. Step 7. Make sure the coaster is 100% rideable. Don't be afraid to place the rails on supports or something else, or use redstone to ensure that your recreation is rideable. Whenever I make a recreation, one of my #1 priorities is to make the coaster rideable. As you may know, I build all of my recreations on Xbox 360, so I don't have access to mods or plugins. So in some cases when a recreation must vertically ascend, I spiral the track, I place rails and support structures, or I use redstone to assist the ascension, just to guarantee that the coaster is rideable. Step 8. Don't be afraid to revise or reconstruct sections of your recreation. This happens very frequently when I'm recreating a coaster. Oftentimes part of the track is too close or too far from another part of the track. When you make errors in construction, do not get lazy and say, "Oh, it's good enough." Make sure that if necessary, you reconstruct any parts of the coaster that are built incorrectly. If you let it be, then this can cause other parts of the coaster to be built out of proportion, causing an entirely defective ride that would just look bad. Then, you'd have to decide whether to reconstruct almost the whole coaster or let it be and deal with an error-filled recreation. Step 9. Take breaks during construction. It may sound dumb, but it is very important to take breaks while building a complex, detailed recreation. If you overload yourself with building, you may start to get headaches or get tired, which can cause you to get lazier while building. This can then overall affect the outcome of your recreation. Considering the previous step, if you do make a major error, you may get frustrated, which can cause you to reconstruct portions of the ride poorly. So it is okay to step away from the game for a bit and come back later with a refreshed mind. Step 10. Do a complete final check on your recreation. After you've completely finished building your recreation, go ahead and slowly look over the entire coaster, checking for errors. Something that I often do before recording a recreation upload is slowly maneuvering through the entire queue, all the way to the station, riding the coaster, continuing through the exit, all the way back out to the entrance. Try to pay attention to all the little details to make sure everything is just the way you want it before you share it with others. It is extremely important to do this because I always find mistakes in my recreations after I have uploaded them, and these little details always trigger me. So to save you the anxiety, please do a thorough final check on your recreation after you finish building it. And there you have it. I hope this guide somewhat helps you be able to make recreations a little bit better. If this video gets enough support, then I might make tutorials on some of my already existing recreations. As for my next recreation, I will be doing a speed build of Tatsu at Magic Mountain. But until then, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.